Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Drive Pink Dialogue as we count down the final seconds of Inter Miami's 3-1 Leagues Cup semifinal victory over Orlando City in a must-win game. They get the win, and it all came down to a little bit of Messi magic. This is the Raw Reaction. I'm your host, Scotty. I will be joined momentarily by my co-host, Saur. But in what can only be described as a fantastic final 20 minutes that sees Inter Miami through to the final, the Herons clinch the CONCACAF Champions Cup for next season. They clinch their spot in a final for this season for the first time. And Inter Miami's talent, led by Lionel Messi, shines through. A phenomenal game by Lionel Messi, especially in those last 30 minutes. I thought Jordi Alba was fantastic throughout the game. And in a game where Inter Miami really did struggle for a very long portion of the game, we're down 1-0 into the 75th minute. It was a foul called on Brecalo against Tadeo Allende, leads to not just a penalty, but a second yellow on Brecalo. He gets sent off, and that changes the game. Lionel Messi converts the penalty for his first goal. In the 89th minute, maybe 88th minute, he scores the second. And then Talasco Segovia puts one away at the end to seal the deal for Inter Miami. And they go through 3-1. Guys, this is the Raw Reaction. Again, I will be joined momentarily by my co-host, Saur. But in the meantime, get your comments in the chat, and we will get to everyone because Inter Miami is going to the Leagues Cup final. Saur, what'd you think?
We made it. Leagues Cup final. Here we come. That was great. I loved it. It was very nervy for a large part of the game. I texted you on the side saying that where was the win that I was promised? I thought it was going to be another one of those evenings where Inter Miami just ends up completely losing the plot in a crucial game against our rivals. And then today Allende changed the game, man. That's what happened.
Super sub star, my friend. That guy has been dying to come off the bench. And can I just say, we've been asking for him to come off the bench for a month now. And because we thought, man, a different view, and you can come on in a shorter period of time against tired legs, you can build some confidence. And oh my God, did he deliver in a moment that's going to build his confidence. All of a sudden, he can go back into the starting lineup. All it took was one game off the bench, and then he comes off the bench, has a moment that builds the confidence in him, and now he can go back and start again. By the way, Rodrigo de Paul he did a Space Jam on Tadeo Allende's weaknesses because he was really bad in this game. But I don't want to dwell on that. I want to dwell on Lionel Messi first. Because he steps up, takes the penalty. Kind of a nervy penalty, but it's Messi, so it's fine.
I thought he missed it. I didn't realize it had gone in.
That goal in the 88th minute. Maybe a highlight of the season for him. Maybe the highlight of the season for Inter Miami, honestly.
Honestly, wait, is that the Segovia goal or the Messi goal?
No, that's the Messi goal. He pushes it to Jordi Alba, and then there's 7 guys guarding him, and he still finds a way to score.
That was brilliant. But you don't expect anything less from him. That was brilliant. That was what
I don't know.
You think Suarez's goal against Palmeiras was.
You know, we understand Messi is like the greatest player of all time, but even still, when he does things like that, you kind of just sit back and marvel because that is an extraordinary goal. And when you consider the circumstances, when you consider the fact that Inter Miami is now going to the Leagues Cup final because of it, I think it's his biggest goal of the season, I think. Maybe the Porto goal, but like we're splitting hairs there. And when we talk
this
about
has consequences for next season, it just doesn't have consequences for this season. So I would argue this is bigger.
Yeah, and I maybe more difficult to pull off. I think he was going up against 7 guys, honestly. Like he's just.
I don't even remember his Porto goal.
In the 30 minutes, it was a set piece, free kick. In the last 30 minutes, man, he just took over. I thought he was phenomenal in those last 30 minutes, and especially once they go down a man and Inter Miami's able to sort of really control the game. But I think even before that, because Orlando City, maybe like 55th minute, 60th minute, they started to shell up and they were willing to give Inter Miami possession. And so Inter Miami was able to feed Messi. And I thought he really just turned it to a different level. Finishes with
I
2
will say
goals,
Inter
and I
Miami,
thought it was great.
Inter Miami over the last few games has been prodding a lot, but there's just been no bite to their attack. And I thought we were suffering with that again today, even though we were dominating in that second half. You said it right. It was baffling that Orlando decided to sit back starting the 50th minute. And I was like, they should just come at Inter Miami because it was working in the first half. And Inter Miami started to build into it. But still, we were like half chances. We weren't really doing much in terms of creating clear-cut opportunities.
In the
There
first
was a
half, no.
missed pass here. No, in the second half as well, even towards like after the 50th minute, we were constantly knocking on the door. But Galese had like 1 or 2 good saves. It wasn't anything outright. And then the subs came on and it just completely flipped the switch. I thought as soon as you had that Allende up top option, it just opened up a lot more. The space started to open up, and that's when you saw Messi start to come into his own. And I think we should put Javi Mascherano up top with the video analysts because that sub worked out really well. Both Allende and Segovia, by the way.
That Jordi Alba cross to the back post was open a lot this game, and he hit it to Ian Frey once or twice early on, and Frey did not handle it well. But it was open. And then when Tadeo Allende came on, it was still open, and they went to Allende a couple times. I thought Jordi Alba was their best chance of scoring until they went down a man by whipping in those crosses. He had a number of like really close opportunities that someone else could have finished on that moment. I honestly thought they should have gotten a second penalty. Galese just punches.
Yeah.
Allende in the head. That should be a penalty. I'm sorry. But to be fair, Orlando City probably also should have gotten one on the Sergio Busquets thing. So, yeah, I thought Inter Miami, we'll break it down tomorrow, but I didn't like the game plan. I thought they were still too expansive. I thought we learned in the first 2 games that they had to play tighter lines, and they didn't do it. But they survive into the second half. I thought probably that first goal for Pasalic should have been taken off too. Like to me, it looks like it hits his arm. But either way, it's 1-0 at halftime, and Orlando City deserved to be up 1-0. And going into the second half, they decided to box up pretty early on in the second half and give Inter Miami a lot of the ball instead of challenging for it in the midfield. And that was what allowed Inter Miami to get back into this game. If you think about one of our other best comebacks of the season at home game versus LAFC, that's exactly what LAFC did. They bunkered down too early, and Inter Miami was able to just push and push and push until they finally got the breakthrough. Also, Inter Miami lucked out a little bit that Brecalo got that yellow card in the first half. The referee was a little yellow card happy, and
For them,
it
not
went
for us,
well.
which worked.
He did. No, we got like 4 or 5 yellow cards. Like, I don't necessarily think Inter Miami got luckier in that regard, but the individual moments and the fact that Brecalo got a second one obviously worked in Inter Miami's favor. And then they just took full advantage. And Orlando City, from the time they went down to 10 men, never had a chance to really win the game. It was always, can we survive until penalties? And they're very good at that. They've long been a team that's prided itself on its defense. This is the first year they're really like an offensive team. And for Inter Miami to still be able to break them down into the 88th minute was, I thought, fantastic. And you know what? That is what champions do. And now Inter Miami has a chance to go be a champion on Sunday afternoon on the West Coast.
What a big achievement for this season, because honestly, if we'd lost that game and for 65, 70 minutes, it felt like we were the second best team in the pitch. And let's be honest with that. That would have been season over for me. I still don't. It's going to be hard to beat this Orlando team. Like, they were still very good tonight. We played into their game plan for large parts of tonight. And that's what baffles me again. I told you, it's not about the personnel in the midfield. It's how you set them up. And we set up the exact same way. That's why it was like basketball, football around back and forth in the first half. completely baffles me why they took the foot off the gas in the second half and honestly allowed Inter Miami to just play our game, which
Yeah.
works for us. I'm really happy with that, but I don't know why they did that. They had all the weapons to kill the game off.
And maybe this is a conversation more for tomorrow, but they Inter Miami came out and again played to Orlando City's strengths, and that was pretty disappointing. But it all works out. And by the way, we get another penalty, not in MLS play, but in Leagues Cup play. So maybe all of our karma is finally coming through. Let's get to the chat. Luis says, "I hate Taylor Twellman. Thank you." The way he describes the non-call on Busquets, he calls it an obvious penalty. And then the way he downplays the penalty on Tadeo Allende, I thought that was like a pretty obvious tell. But I will say, I this year appreciate listening to Taylor Twellman more because it means Inter Miami's in good games. And the reason we haven't heard him that much this year is because Inter Miami's not been good enough to be in big matchups. And so for that reason and that reason alone, like I appreciate it because I want us to be playing in big games.
But he doesn't even commentate. I'm sorry. All he says is, "Oh my, oh dear,
Okay.
oh god."
Let's move on for Taylor
That's
Twellman
all he
because
says.
that's not
And
what this
it's
is
so
about.
annoying.
Josue says, "I watched the Spanish commentary. What did he say?"
Oh my.
Luis.
That's all he said for 90 minutes.
Luis says, "Vamos Miami to the finals, back to the CONCACAF Champions Cup." And that's the other big thing about this is that I don't think it's guaranteed Inter Miami would qualify for the CONCACAF Champions Cup through the Supporters Shield table or through the MLS Cup playoffs. But now they've done it. And so whatever happens the rest of the season, you get a fresh start next year with everything to play for. You're not sitting on the sideline for that tournament thinking you wasted a chance in one of the years you had with Messi. So this is like a huge weight lifted off the shoulders for Inter Miami, for Javier Mascherano, for the Supporter Shield race. Like all of those things, all of those conversations changed because they got this win tonight. So kudos to them. I know right now they're worried about winning on Sunday, but as fans that know what this team is possibly capable of and winning a CONCACAF Champions Cup and things like that, this was really, really important, and they got the job done. So I want to make sure
And they stopped Orlando
that
from using this opportunity to get through the CONCACAF Champions Cup and winning a trophy. So added bonus. Maybe they get through in the next one with the third place game that they play, but at least we weren't the reason that they got through to the final and the CONCACAF Champions Cup. So overall, a really good night, and you can forgive and forget the last two games against Orlando City.
Diego says, "What a great last 15 minutes for Miami." Is that the secret to beating Orlando? We just have to have an extra guy on the field?
I think so. Honestly, that's what we need to beat this Orlando team this season. And listen, it worked in our favor. Luck sometimes favors the brave, and we managed to pull through. So I would say that was a penalty. And unlucky for Brecalo that he got a yellow card earlier as well. But Inter Miami still had a lot to do, man. We still had to get that penalty. We still had to get another goal and another goal on top of that. By the way, that third goal, again, so good. Segovia, just so good, man.
Do you know how often a player has an opportunity in the dying moments and just whacks a shot from the edge of the box, and it's just a wasted opportunity? For him to have the patience and the vision and everything he needed to actually finish
And
that
the
off,
combination
gets it to
as well.
Suarez. He gets it to
There's a lot of
Suarez and then
these
gets it
young
back.
players,
Yeah, exactly.
A lot of these
So,
young players just run
beautiful
at the
play.
goal and then try to finish it off. But he saw that Suarez is available, and then he had the guts to just play 1-2 in the middle in a congested space and get a nice chip over Galese. Beautiful goal, man. Beautiful goal.
Janice says, "We were robbed in the first half. We were redemptive in the second half." How do you feel about that?
I don't think so. I think we were lucky in the first half. We were definitely redemptive in the second half. I agree with that. But first half, we got away with a lot. We could have easily been down like 3-0 again. Orlando was just wasteful and not as clinical as they had been in the last few games.
They certainly had the Angulo chance where he gets a one-on-one. I think that's on Maxi Falcone. I'd have to go back and rewatch it. Maxi Falcone had a tough game today.
I have him penciled down as my hair, and that flew north.
Dude, I thought Rodrigo de Paul was
Or
so bad.
that's my second one. Yeah.
And so those two I thought were clearly in a class of their own. But going up from there, I thought Ian Frey was wasteful in some moments. But actually, like, I don't think there was a lot of individually bad performances aside from the two we mentioned. It was just they didn't have a system or setup that was going to allow them to handle this Orlando City team. They didn't play tight. They didn't play narrow. And Orlando City just played right through them. And you're right. We got very lucky that Orlando City clamped down pretty early in that second half. So, yeah, I think maybe we were robbed because of our coach in the first half, and we were redemptive because we made sure it didn't matter in the second half. Diego says Florida is pink. Let's talk about that because Inter Miami loses the first two games in blowout fashion, non-competitive fashion, I think would be an accurate way to describe it. And here they go, winning the one that matters against their rival.
This was the most important one. If you lose this, I think season's more or less done for us. You can talk about the supporter shield. You can talk about the playoffs. I think it would have been very hard. You're in a final now. You can win a trophy. You made it to the CONCACAF Champions Cup. The payoff from this win is so much more than the loss from the last two. And I think this was redemption. Well done to the team for not letting their heads down. This was very difficult to get through. Orlando is still a fantastic team. And I think it just means so much more. But the most important thing is on the night that it matters, Messi showed up, the team showed up, and they painted Florida pink. So well done to the boys.
Absolutely. Natalia says vengeance is ours. Tunde says a win, but it leaves a bit of a bitter taste, I think. That is, I think, a conversation for tomorrow, right? We will break that down tomorrow. Pepto says Miami, Florida is sexy, black, and pink. Janet says Scotty with a huge smile. Of course. Vamos, we win. Let's go. Juan says you earned this. Congrats to the chaplain referee. What do you think of the refereeing tonight? I can understand why an Orlando City fan would say it went our way, but I felt like over the course, like 55-45, not 80.
Yeah, I don't think it was as blatantly towards Inter Miami, but I do think we got some of the chances in our favor. So I don't mind it. I thought it was fine. I can understand why Orlando fans find it a little bit harsher, but that's how the game goes sometimes. I think it was fine.
VM says, Vamos Miami. Naya says, Messi magic. Messi is spectacular. But I just want to double down on Jordi Alba because we have seen him sometimes have poor games. And this game, he was fantastic. I thought Luis Suarez made the plays he needed to in this game. I thought Sergio Busquets, aside from the potential penalty, I thought was like as good as you needed. It was very good in this game. Not so much with RDP, but what did you think of Jordi Alba? What did you think of Messi?
I thought he was really
What did you think
good
of the Stars?
Going forward. I thought, Messi, game changer. First half, struggled to get involved, struggled to get it going. Second half, completely changed the game. Suarez, I thought, was decent. Effective in certain points, but that's the thing with the superstars. When they all play well, they all play well. And when they all play poor, they all play poor together. So it's a bit weird. I thought Sergio Busquets was okay. Not his best performance, in my opinion. I'll have to rewatch to understand how the midfield was shaping up. But I think Bright was still, I think, better than RDP and Sergio Busquets both. I agree. I think I'm going to have to figure out who I want to give the Heron That Flew North award to. But it's going to be between Maxi Falcone and RDP. I think I'm leaning towards RDP. Poor, very poor.
Pepto says, apology line for Allende starts here. JC says, bro, give Allende his flowers. Hair in the match, he changed everything. And Naya says, let's go Segovia for the winner. Lynn says, perfect subs. Love Allende as a super sub and Segovia too. And then A repeating says, Mache Ball plus Messi magic. And Janet says, vamos, Miami. Those two have started so much this year, Segovia and Allende. And especially Allende at times we have said, this guy needs to come off the bench. He needs to have a reset, whether it's physical, whether it's mental, whether it's confidence, whether it's how he can impact the game, whether it's going against tired legs. And those two were fantastic. Fantastic.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I thought Allende just completely changed the way Inter Miami could approach offense. We were up until then very one-dimensional, just constantly prodding, trying to get through centrally, but Orlando was very compact. As soon as we had Allende, who is almost playing as a pseudo striker, as a target man, going up for those headers, trying to win the long balls into the box, it just transformed into Miami's offense, allowed us a lot more space to play with. I thought he was a lot better as a super sub, had more energy to him, didn't look like he was just being a headless chicken on the field. And you know why that was? Because when you come into a game as a substitute, you have clear instructions of what you need to do. You know exactly what the game plan in and around you is. You know that you need to go. The coaching staff gives you exact instructions of where you should be, what you should be doing. And he'd seen 55 minutes of the game previously. That I think worked in his favor.
And not only that, but specifically to what you're saying, they told him attack the back post when Jordi Alba gets on the ball, and you will receive it. Yeah, I thought it was awesome. I guess last thing, because I know you have to go early. What do you think of Baltasar today?
I thought he tried to get involved, but maybe a product of Inter Miami's lack of bite in the first half. We were so open that he was being asked to do a lot of work, both offensively and defensively. He showed glimpses, but again, I don't think he did nearly enough to impact the game as such, which is fine. It's not bad. I thought he had some couple of really good moments, taking players on, some smooth, silky feet. Did some really good work defensively. I think that was where I really liked his performance. But I think overall it was fine. Not as impactful or effective as it could be.
Yeah, he's very pacey, he's very quick, he's like actionable, which is fun and exciting, but also like I want to go back and look at some of the end product. I think maybe if we had seen him in the second half instead of the first, like when things were going Inter Miami's way and they had much more possession of the ball, we may have seen a different impact from him. So I will save that for the rewatch. Sure, I know you have a very busy schedule coming up, so I will give you final words.
We have one hand on the trophy, trying to clinch it. We have both legs in the CONCACAF Champions Cup for next year. This has been a fantastic evening. I told you, football gods don't burn you twice. I witnessed one of my teams lose very poorly, and the consequences of that might be felt for the rest of the season. But I witnessed my other team win this game, and the consequences of that will be felt in the next season as well. This was a huge game for Inter Miami, psychologically, in terms of tangibles and what it means for the season. We now have a clear-cut chance to win another trophy, and that would make 3 seasons in a row under Lionel Messi where Inter Miami wins a trophy. We have to win this, regardless who it is in front of us, whether it's LA or whether it's Seattle. We have to.
And this was the hard one, I think. Like Seattle's a good team, and we would be on the road. Like that would be tough. But I think just the way we've handled Orlando City, this was the one that was going to be the bugaboo. I think Inter Miami goes in as the favorite. By the way, and I'm sorry, I will let you go after this. Messi plays 90 minutes, looks healthy. Like he looks good. Okay, Saur, thank you so much for hopping on with us. I know you got to drop off, so I will let you go. But we'll continue the conversation because I'm hyped up and I want to hear from you guys. But we will turn the raw reaction into an after party in 3, 2, 1. Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in. Do us a favor and hit that like and subscribe button. Since our first viewer, sharing this with you all has been the very best part. So from the beginning until the end, thank you for being a part of this and have a wonderful day. And to that point, Naya says, Messi is back with a bang. He was awesome. In that last 30 minutes, I thought he was spectacular. First 60 minutes, I thought it was tough for him to get into the game. But that was because Inter Miami was really struggling through the midfield, hard to progress the ball. They were trying to extend their lines. It was a weird game plan. And again, that's something maybe for conversation for tomorrow. But But by the time he was able, by the time the game flow got Messi involved, he was able to take over and dominate. He was exceptional. Upcoat says RDP was as bad as Allende was good. Segovia too. I'm telling you, there's a Space Jam. If you've ever seen the original Space Jam, there's like a feature of the movie where aliens go to superstar basketball players and they steal their ability to play basketball. And that's what Allende did to RDP, I think. Or maybe there's just a curse on that right wing, that right midfield spot, because I don't think Allende completed a pass of more than like 6 yards in this game. Every cross was not just off, but poor. I don't want to judge his defense too much. I'd want to go back and rewatch it, but on the ball, he was really bad. Ash says, how do we get back to playing as a team instead of a mob? You'll have to explain that one to me. Jay says that Messi goal and Segovia goal were so sweet. That's the pure quality, right? And that's why you want Inter Miami to try and suffocate opponents, to really crouch into the opposition's half so that you could get Lionel Messi in and around the box with the little touches that make him special. Mario says Baltasar was so good. I'm really looking forward to rewatch because he looks very quick. He had some really nice dribbling. No shots today from him, but he was still, I thought, like impactful. But the problem is he came off like the part of the game he played in. The game state was very anti-Inter Miami, and by the time it really flipped in Inter Miami's favor, he was off the pitch. He came off in the 65th minute. So, I thought the game started to change in the 58th, 60th minute. Orlando City sat back. I thought that was a dumb decision, but they did it. And 5 minutes later, Baltasar comes off. So I would be very curious to see what type of impact he could have had with the ball. But I thought it was like a generally positive first half, considering the game state. Lots of Taylor Twellman comments. Luis says, hope Alba's okay. His doing hammies keep acting up. I saw him reach for the hammy, but he still looked fine for the rest of the game. If he can go for the final, that would be excellent. Naya says this game was awesome. I agree. This was, at least the last 20 minutes, was as fun as we've had as Inter Miami fans in a long time, I think. Michael says RDP was bad in this game. Ash says Baltasar has elite ball skills. Jerry says, what a player, Messi. But my trophy tonight goes to Segovia. Everyone can see his quality when he came in. And I think this is maybe the conversation with Baltasar flipped, that he came in when the game state was very positive towards Miami. He comes in the 73rd minute. Inter Miami has to go for it. They haven't even scored one goal yet. But Orlando City is sitting back. They have plenty of time to move the ball. And so Segovia was able to take advantage of that because he has incredible quality, especially on the ball. But even his off-the-ball movements are really good. He's a really good player. But one of the cool things about tonight is now we have a little bit of depth that maybe Javier Mascherano trusts so that he can take a guy like Segovia off and out of the starting 11. That's something he wasn't really willing to do a month ago or 3 months ago. Like, he felt like he was starting the same 11 guys, or at least in that front six, front five, the same guys every single game, wasn't willing to give anyone an opportunity. And now if he does trust Baltasar and he does trust RDP on that right side, and he has to play Yannick Bright because Yannick Bright's so good, like, you can bring these guys off the bench and they can be impactful in a way that we haven't necessarily seen a ton this year. Off the bench, I mean. Upcoach says Allende, man of the match. Naya says Messi, man of the match. Man of the match, it's tough. Allende had a huge moment, but I thought the way Messi dominated that last 30 minutes, and Jordi Alba too, right? That Allende moment doesn't happen if Jordi Alba's not putting in stellar crosses. Tony says stunned. Orlando botched that completely. That I would agree with. They went way too conservative, way too soon. Upcoach says, hey guys, we're back. We're going to CCC. What a feeling. What a feeling. And I've mentioned this a couple times on the podcast and on the raw reactions and stuff, but I've been very nervous about this over the course of the last 3 or 4 months. And I have not talked about it as much as my nervousness has dictated. because I didn't want to jinx anything, but I was very nervous about this, and so this is a huge sigh of relief. And now that you've done that, you can just go chase trophies, which is exactly what we get to do on Sunday. Joe Wise says, I liked the lineup. Let me just pull it up real quick. This was, let's see. This was the lineup. It was Ustadi in goal, Lujan and Falcone as center backs. Again, Falcone I thought was really poor in this game. Lujan I thought had one of his better games, actually. Aside from the center backs, I think this is maybe Inter Miami's best 11. Rodriguez, Baltasar, and Segovia maybe can flip-flop. Allende off the bench. Like, this is a pretty nice lineup. I will say, though, just generally speaking, the reason Orlando City was able to play through Inter Miami so easily is because they're playing in this 4-4-2 that really only has two true midfielders, especially because the number 10, Messi, is certainly not getting down and dirty in the midfield. And so if you have a ton of space in between the lines, it becomes very easy to play through, right? In a 4-3-3, you have depth within your midfield. But in a with a two-man midfield, you don't really have that. And so, like, part of the responsibility of playing this formation is having your lines be somewhat tight so that it's not easy to just, ping balls through. But Inter Miami gets away with it tonight, so who am I to complain? Let's see. Lots of RDP thoughts. Yeah, again, he was really poor. I don't know what happened to him. Cynical says, Messi's doing an interview, guys. Let me know if he says anything interesting. And then Joe says, Baltasar showed something tonight. Yeah, listen. And Jerry says, Baltasar is a future star if he stays in MLS. And by the way, the kid, Mateo, has very similar skills, or better than Segovia because he's more bulky. Baltasar completely changed maybe not completely, but I've certainly come a long way on Baltasar Rodriguez over the last 5 days. He has a buy option at the end of this season. That was an obligation if he played a certain number of games, which he's certainly not going to have done. But I'm assuming it's an option still. That would make him a U22 DP. Up until tonight, I would have said you can't purchase him because of the injury record. And listen, it's still early, right? Like, if he has another 2 injuries this season, it'll be for naught. But this is the first moment right now, as we're talking, that I think, okay, maybe we can make that purchase option because he clearly showed something tonight. Not that I would necessarily, I'm not there yet, but this is the first time I'm opening the door since, he started getting injured every game. Paolo says Allende should be a super sub for the next few games. It looks good. It looks really good because he is a hyper athlete. I know he doesn't look like he's running super fast, but he's got those long strides. He picks up ground very quickly, and he's an elite vertical athlete. That is a type of weapon off the bench. And it's a weapon in the first, you see it in the first 25 minutes of games too. When you have the A team in there and Busquets is popping balls over the top and RDP's popping balls over the top and Suarez is, heading balls forward to chest. You can see Allende's impact. But if you could put that against tired legs in the last 20 minutes, could be special. Sean says Allende leveled up to Black Wizard with this black magic tonight. And it was a great penalty hearing, too. Jerry says the only player now we have not seen much is Obando. Yeah, I know. And that's a shame because I'm not sure we will get an opportunity. Josue says, how'd you guys manage to recognize Bright's talents but failed to see Baltasar's? I will tell you, this is exactly what happened. Yannick Bright in the preseason of 2024 played 8 minutes off the bench in, I believe it was Japan, but it may have been the Hong Kong game. And you could see something in the first 10 minutes, and so you're hyper-focused on him over the next couple opportunities, and we saw him against Newell's Old Boys in the last preseason game at the beginning of the year last year, at the last preseason game, and you could see how it works. And they traded Gregory, they sold Gregory, so you could see, okay, there's an opportunity here for Bright. There's minutes for a defensive midfielder. The thing with Baltasar is the first 3 or 4 games, maybe in the first 5 games, I thought he was very unimpressive, if I'm being honest. And of course, that's coming back from injury and not having played a lot of minutes, or there's plenty of excuses. That doesn't mean he's a bad player, but I think with Yanni Bright, we could see something in the first 10 minutes. But listen, Baldessar's winning us over, so. Bizrat says, I think the problem with Orlando was they decided to sit back and defend in the second half so early. Yeah, absolutely. Joe says Messi also sparked after the goal. And we said this in the pregame show. When Lionel Messi's on, it is incredible for the whole team. The team just like uplifts, or at least most of the rest of the team. Tony says Orlando botched it, should have kept attacking. I agree. Pepto says we need a striker. Oh, man, I thought Suarez did everything you could want from him in this game. He gets the assist. I don't want to say almost scored a goal, but he had a clear-cut opportunity in the first half that he gets himself into position to have. He puts it about a foot wide. I thought Suarez was solid, was good in this game. But I will always rewatch it and give you my second opinion after. Nader says, wish if the referees showed us more love in CONCACAF Champions Cup instead of this useless tournament or in the MLS. But hopefully that's all coming in the MLS Cup. Because there's no way Inter Miami can go a whole season without getting a single penalty. Joe says, shouldn't a goalie missing a ball and punching an attacker in the head be a penalty? I think it should, 1,000%. Because the goalkeeper also can see who's in front of him. Like, I don't think goalkeepers deserve some sort of benefit for that. That's a foul, but I think. Anonymous says referees helped us rob the game, but I don't care. Florida's being now with the referees' help. You know what? Sometimes it doesn't matter. Jerry says credit to Mascherano today. He finally put Allende off the bench. We still need to have a better vertical threat starting, and maybe that player we don't have. Maybe Fafa is that player. I don't know if we do, because if you're Inter Miami and you can get the game state into a situation where you're controlling the ball in the opposition's half, you don't need the vertical threat, and you have all the quality to break things down. Inter Miami's only way of scoring is not in transition. So, now don't get me wrong, it's a nice tool to have, and sometimes you need it to unlock things. Like, Allende has a big role to play, but you don't have to have one in every single game plan. Luis says, I hope Mascherano's new point of view opened up his eyes. Speaking of Mascherano, I didn't love the game plan, but I think they identified that back post as a place to attack. They did it in the first half with Frey. They did it in the second half with Allende. So I want to give the coaching staff credit, because that is a specific in-game weakness they identified in Orlando that they exploited, and it turned the game around. So I don't know if, like, it wasn't all bad. I thought they had some really nice positive thoughts. And as Janice said, yes, Masha got the subs right. Absolutely got the subs right. Naya says he really hopes we go against the LA Galaxy. And Anonymous says Allende came through with the ghost penalty dive. I thought that was a penalty for sure. Upcode says Ustari was pretty good tonight. Yeah, I thought Ustari was excellent tonight. He makes a big save. He makes 2 big saves, I think, in the first half. One where he has to make a quick dive to his right that I was really impressed with. And maybe, I will say, I watched the Manchester United game earlier today, and I watched Andre Onana, so maybe I'm just very impressed by a goalkeeper that can make any save. But I thought Ustari was really good today. And then the play with Angulo, as he gets the one-on-one in the first half, he stands his ground just like he's supposed to, and he forces Angulo to pick a side and try and pick out a post, and Angulo wasn't able to do it. So an excellent performance from him. Michael says, if LA beats Seattle, is the final here? No, there's no way the final's in Miami. The way it works is that the MLS Cup champion, for some reason, gets to host all of their Leagues Cup knockout round games. Not exactly sure what that's about, but they do. So that's the Galaxy. And then everyone else goes by how you ranked in the first, like after the first phase. And Inter Miami came in second, but first was Seattle. So they'd be behind Seattle, and they also don't get to host against the Galaxy because the Galaxy get the MLS Cup privilege. Jerry says maybe Silvetti is that speedster in the final third. He does have a burst. It's just that I don't see Allende nor Fafa starting. They're both better off the bench. Well, listen, if you look at that 11 today, like I don't know where Silvetti fits in because unless you're putting Rodrigo de Paul back in the midfield and you're taking Yannick Bright off. By the way, I thought Yannick Bright was excellent today. He is getting forward. He has really become something. A couple crosses to him and he puts it back centrally and they don't lead to goals, but I thought, like that is exactly that's what you want from a midfielder. I thought he was good again. I'm excited for Silvetti though. I like new players. I like giving kids, especially kids. I like giving them an opportunity. Jay says Miami's super fortunate with that Angulo miss in the first half. Yep. Pepto says first half was horrible. The midfield was wide open for what? Summer Sunshine says Taylor Twellman hates Inter Miami. Anton says they got gassed, ? And I'm assuming that means Orlando City, and that's why they bunkered down. That's actually maybe an interesting point. Maybe the reason they bunkered down so early is because they thought they could save some energy for Sunday's game, but I still think that's a pretty dumb idea. And I will also say Javier Mascherano has done this before, and he's even bunkered down as early as halftime, and I think that's a terrible decision, even if it works out. Jerry says it's a mystery so far why a player with so much size and talent like Obando has not played all year. Does anyone have any information? Yeah, he has like muscular imbalances, and those are going to lead to serious injuries if he doesn't correct them. And so I think his professional development up until now has done him a disservice to not iron those out when he was 14 years old. But now he's 19, 18, and he still has them. He needs to fix those now, and it's just unfortunate that has to happen at Inter Miami. But it's important for the rest of his career, so I understand it. Cynical says, wow, I'm still pacing around my house. Cynical, I want you to know, this is because you cooked the popcorn perfectly. Joe says, I would prefer to play LA here in Miami first, no longer travel to LA will melt in Miami. Yeah, either way, it's going to be on the West Coast. That said, I would rather play in LA because I think the Galaxy are worse. And also, that Seattle trip is really far. We made the Vancouver trip last year. We made it this year. And it takes it out of you, I think. Anonymous says the Spanish broadcast is always biased towards Miami. Hey guys, that was so fun, says Mr. Reed. I have to sleep. I can't wait to listen in the morning. Well, when you come back to this, I hope you enjoy. Nick Smith says, I always watch in Spanish. Cynical says, Balta was amazing. And Cynical, by the way, you have consistently told us Baltasar is going to come good. So giving you credit for shouting you out for that one. Pepto says, why was Busquets playing more forward instead of Bright? I think it's because Javier Mascherano likes him to sit back for the build-up. And I think he also thinks he can play sort of center back role. And so he kind of likes having him sit in the back three. And he splits those center backs really wide. And Bright is more of a go attack the game kind of midfielder. Whereas I think Busquets is maybe a little more disciplined defensively. Akin Laja says, I'm afraid that Allende is just a diver. I thought it was a penalty. I really did. Jerry says RDP creates so much space. Yes, he's still trying to mesh with the rest of the team, but RDP is a huge upgrade, and he will keep getting better. Yeah, listen, he was bad today. He couldn't complete passes, but that doesn't mean he's a terrible player. Upcode says, hey, guys, we have a rivalry now. Orlando's going to hate us. Guys, this has been a rivalry. That's my thoughts. Jerry says Miami's 100% made for Leagues Cup. Kako says, I love to see the Orlando fans crying on X. What I will say is every time I finish this, if I've gone through all the comments, is the next thing I do is just sit on Twitter for 10 minutes and just watch both Inter Miami fans celebrate, but sometimes the other teams fans kind of whine about it. And I do follow a lot more Orlando City fans than a bunch of other teams. So I'm looking forward to that. Luis says, I will miss Segovia when he's off playing in Europe. Absolutely. Jay says, Messi interview, he said he's still feeling some discomfort, but knew how important this game was in getting the win. Yeah, we don't talk about this enough, but Lionel Messi's captainship this season has been outstanding. When things were at their worst, he was clearly the catalyst that got things going, not just on the field, but off the field. And like this is another example of that. In the first year and a half of his time at the team, he was the captain, but like it wasn't always noticeable his impact. Like Inter Miami turned from a loser to a winner, and he was clearly a huge part of that. But I think it's been even more obvious this year, and I don't know what else to say about Lionel Messi, man. He's awesome. Giuseppe says, Messi said in an interview just now that he was scared to push himself in the first half, but felt better in the second half. One of the other positives I don't think we've mentioned yet is Inter Miami gets Messi through 90 minutes, but also he gets through it unscathed, which means he should be good to go for the final. Upcode says, I have to say Lujan was very good tonight, to be honest. Yeah, I thought it was one of his better games. I really did. Nick Smith says, hit the like button, y'all, and I would appreciate that. Cynical says RDP wasn't that bad. He got a 7.7. He did get a 7.7 on SofaScore, but he also turned the ball over like 15 times. Probably more than that, actually. Jerry says Segovia with the ball is way, way better than Diego Gomez and Facundo Farias. Certainly Diego Gomez. Gomez's like superpower was his defensive ability. Although he was better offensively in his second year, but certainly Segovia's like a different category of player in that respect. Falcone looked like he was on ice without skates. Oh, he was bad in this game. But you know what? They got the win, so I'm not going to complain too much. Anonymous says Segovia is way better than Pulisic. I certainly don't agree with that. I think Pulisic would be the second best player in the league, honestly. I think he's really would fit this league really well. Not that I want him to come, but Tony says I'd take Christoph over Maxi. I'd take Christoph over Lujan. But the thing about Maxi Falcone is he has phenomenal performances, but he has some really terrible ones, and this was bad. Tunde says, honestly, Orlando controlled us for the first 65 to 70 of this game. It wasn't quite that long. It was like 58th minute, 60th minute. That's when they sit back and Inter Miami takes control of possession, and then they just start poking and prodding. It wasn't quite 70 minutes. Michael says, I agree. If we didn't win this, the season was over. That's going to Sorup's point. The thing is, everything we're going to do from here on out is going to be because Messi drives us there. And tonight was no different. Like, it really wasn't. Like, without Messi, we don't win this game. And it's going to be true for Sunday, and it's going to be true in the MLS Cup playoffs. They don't have the depth. Well, they have the talent, but they don't have the cohesion and the coaching, really, to pull out wins without him against great teams. Bizrat says, watching the Galaxy-Seattle game now to see who finished. I did want to put that on in the background, although I don't know if it started yet. Oh, yeah, 30 minutes in. Let me just mute that so it doesn't distract me. Nolan says, I was right about Allende and Segovia coming off the bench. Absolutely. Tony says, you're being hard on Frey. Had some issues with the ball, but made some plays and was super defensively. I agree. He was outstanding defensively. I thought he was like he had some sloppy moments with the ball, but again, this is like Yannick Bright. I hold Ian Frey to a very high standard, and in possession he wasn't as good in this game, but that's okay. I agree with you. I thought he was really good defensively. Elmer says, crazy game. My daughter's my lucky charm. Every time she goes to the game, Inter Miami wins. You should get her season tickets, man. Joe says Bright was pretty much invisible. I disagree with that. I thought he was really, really good in this game. Again, he's gotten so much better getting forward. By the way, for anyone that doesn't know, it's the 31st minute. Seattle's up 1-0. Some people talking about who they want to face in the final. Terry says, how many I'm assuming turnovers in the first half. It wasn't good. Maybe I'll count that. Pepto says, Man United's better than Inter Miami at Saur. I think he has a long and deep love for Manchester United that tortures him daily. Lynn says, funny how we see different matches. So many think Baltazar was fabulous. Maris says, we won the game. That was a must-win against a tough team. This should give us confidence going forward. Disappointed with the first half. The second half, the subs energized us. Jordi and Messi were magic. Absolutely, 100% across the board. And as Jerry says, Orlando has a tremendous team. Orlando is no joke. They're going to haunt us in the MLS Cup. But now we have, I don't know if I would call this a blueprint. I don't know if we're any more prepared to face them in the MLS Cup. But we might not play them. So we can cross that bridge when we get there. Joe says Orlando has beat Miami twice in MLS and played 3 more games and still only 1 point ahead. They play their best against Miami, average team at best. Oh, no, dude, they're so good. Offensively, they are, especially the last 3 months, they've been fantastic. I think they have the second best offense in the league. They score a lot of goals. And we saw, it'd be nice to have a Gonzalo Piovi right now, but we saw, Luis Muriel and Martin Ojeda, they will tear apart our back two if it's Falcone and Lujan. Natalia says, obviously Messi was holding back from the start of the match and just exploded at the right time. Yeah, I also thought part of it was we were having trouble getting him the ball. And when that happens, and he's not coming back for it, I think that is probably a tell. Jay says Seattle's up 1-0. The LA defenders make Miami center backs look good. Yeah, they are. You know, it's weird. They have some young players, and they had some young players, but they just had to dismantle that roster this offseason. And without Ricky Puig, they're missing one of the big DPs, and they've got nothing outside of the offense. And they lost their striker too, so it's tough. And their other DPs, Peck and Paintsville, have had a huge drop-off in play, which is probably not surprising because they lost their creative number 10, but still. Bepto says, the man of the match other than Messi is Allende because this might be his only chance. He's won the man of the match before. In the beginning of the season, we had a game against Charlotte, and he scored a 1-0 goal. He scored a goal. We won that game 1-0 down 10 men, and I guarantee you he got the man of the match for that. Anonymous says Redondo is way better than RDP. I'm not sure Redondo had a performance that bad, if I'm being honest. I thought, man, RDP was terrible in this game. Especially by, not just by his standards, but just across the board, he was awful. The Devin Knit says, fresh Segovia against tired legs may be a cheat code. Yeah, those two, both Allende and Segovia on tired legs, especially if you need a goal, is is going to be special. KGF says, do you know when the final is? It's on Sunday. I'm assuming it's going to be the night game. I would guess around 6 p.m. Eastern time, but it'll be on the West Coast, either in Seattle or in LA. So it'll be a day game for Inter Miami. And actually, it might be later even because they might make it a night game for them. But the third place game, I guarantee, will be earlier in the day. Henry says Miami's number 10, the world's best number 10, did it again. I'm telling you guys, that list. I'm looking forward to rewatching the last 30 minutes because Messi is special. He really is. Joe says Orlando will always be a Mickey Mouse town. Anton says, did JM get his flowers with second half management from the box tweet? Well, I want to give him credit for identifying that Jordi Alba crossing to the back post was the move. And by the way, Jordi Alba went for the back post all game. He was never going short to Suarez, and he normally does. So that was clearly in the game plan. They identified that as a weakness, and they attacked it. And by the way, it came through when they needed it to. Tunde says, but you don't need to have possession or to control your opponent. You can control them off the ball by restricting what they can do. Before the pen, we didn't look like we would get anything. And then Jay says, wonder if Miami will travel early to the West Coast to train there and start getting acclimated. Seba says, damn, I just saw you retweeting the Pinito Franco saying Messi was disappointing tonight when he's just coming back after an injury. Dude, I believe that tweet said Messi needs to step up in the second half, and absolutely he stepped up in the second half. Listen, Lionel Messi is the greatest player in the world. It's semifinals of tournaments when it's trophy time. That's when you want that guy to step up, and he stepped up, absolutely. So, yeah. Henry says, let's sing Sweet Caroline for Messi because good times never been so good. So good. So good. Okay, guys. Let me see if there's anything else I want to talk about. I don't know. I think we talked about all the players. I think we went over a lot. So, guys, thank you so much for joining us. Sora, I know I had to check out a little bit early, but I very much appreciate you guys checking in and sticking with me, and 233 people watching. Do me a favor, hit the like button and subscribe. And other than that, guys, I hope you have a wonderful night. Tunde says Galaxy or Seattle. I'd rather see the Galaxy, mostly because I think the trip will be easier, and also I think they're worse. But I think Inter Miami would be the favorite either way. We will be back tomorrow for the game breakdown. Till then, I hope you guys have a lovely night. I'll see you guys then. Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in. Do us a favor and hit that like and subscribe button. Since our first viewer, sharing this with you all has been the very best part. So from the beginning until the end, thank you for being a part of this and have a wonderful day.